Okay, thanks for jumping in. Let's get started. So let's just, close this section here, and you will see that we have this first article and it's contained around a div. This is fairly interesting because right here, we're using a lot of divs, it seems like, to kind of semantically lay this out, but there isn't really any other semantic things you could do to lay this out. I mean, if you wanted to, you could put a section in here, so you have a section within another section, but that kind of gets confusing to kind of read. But this will make sense later when we get to CSS, but for now, just bear with me. Right here, we have this article, and this is the first one. And within this div container, what I can essentially do is I can duplicate this one, and this would be the second one. So this would be the one that is sitting adjacent to it in the actual design. So I have this div, which is this container, and it's containing these two articles, first one and the second one. And then I have outer div that is helping to kind of position these in a way that I would like when I apply the aside. It looks like it's not really doing anything right now, but it will all make sense when it's styled once again. And I really want to stress that, because if you don't think this through when you're laying out your pages, you may end up with a lot of unnecessary elements that really don't help you. I could lay this out a little bit less verbose, but I think it would just skip some things that you guys need to kind of focus on. And I'm trying not to make it look like a sleight of hand and some magic here. It's just, I want you to understand how it's kind of structured. If I had another set of articles, so I have two adjacent, and if I was to duplicate this div, then I would have the following two, like below it, if we were using a certain method of styling this thing. It seems confusing, but you can kind of see where these divs come into play. I have this outer div that contains the two sets of articles, and then I have within that div two articles, and then below it I'll have these two divs with also two articles. Now, if you were to do something along the lines of try to loop this, or duplicate this through some sort of function, this won't work out. You might have to choose a different approach. But for the sake of this video, I just want to show you that this is what's going on. So I'm going to add the other section that is actually missing from this. And in this case, it will be the aside. So if we're referencing our mockup, you will see that the aside sits to the right of that, or it's the third item in a column of 3 if you were to take that approach. This would be the outer div that contains the grid, and this would be column 1, this would be column 2, and this other one would be column 3. So for the aside, I'm going to drop in here the emit that will generate the content that I'm looking for. Now, you wouldn't normally do this. Once again, guys, I'm just doing this for the sake of this video. You'd have to actually, take your time and figure out how you want to lay out this structure. Now, in our mockup, there wasn't this much detail inside of the aside. It was just, the aside tag by itself. So if I execute this command, you can see that a lot has happened here, and I'll explain each chunk as best I can. So the outer portion is the aside, right? So the thing that we've seen in our layout. And within the aside, I said before, we could have lots of other elements inside that to give us the structure and the layout that we're looking for. And we use divs as an element to help devise or to help place or group contents of other elements together. So within this div, I have the h2. And for this, we could say something like popular posts. And once again, this doesn't have to be h2 if you're following the semantic order. So since we did h3, I'm going to make this an h3. Below that h3, or that header, we have an image, and that image is part of our post. And then below that one, we have another set. I'm going to make this h3 once again. And inside this, we have that section called our recent posts. The recent post is really comprised of an unordered list, but you should be able to do something like this or duplicate it if you've been paying attention to the previous videos. So the unordered list really comprises of 5 list items, and within those 5 list items, this is where the details of those recent posts come into play. Let's expand this, and you can see that I have a anchor which is a link. What I want to happen, if there was some functionality behind this, if a user was to click the link, they would in turn click this picture and then be redirected to the rest of the article. I chose to use a span tag here for some of the details because I wanted to, cite or reference the photographer that took the pictures. So for instance, I'm just going to place my name here for some of the pictures that I did take. And down here we have the time tag. I've kind of touched on this before, but I'll cover this in greater detail as we move forward. For now, I'm just going to place the time in for this blog article. This really gets repeated 5 times or as many times as you want. This one here is actually set up ideally for looping. So if I had to run this through some kind of functionality, I could loop this as many times as I want or as many times as I have content in an aside. So that's something else you're going to have to think about when you're laying out your page, because later on you will add functionality to your page if you want it to be dynamic. Or if you're doing it just statically, then you wouldn't have to worry about it. But it's also good to just keep that in mind, to make content in a way that if you had to replicate it, it wouldn't be too tricky to do that with a correct layout. And that's it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like the video if you found this useful. Leave your comments and thoughts below. Take care, and I will see you next time.